Hello there. In this guide I will be covering everything you need to know to get started in Shadows of Doubt, since there are literally no beginner's guides for it yet, and since I've been addicted to it for the past 2 days, I've decided to make this for anyone struggling to get started in the game, as I struggled my first few hours where I solved 0 cases, so I hope you find it useful. Shadows of Doubt is an immersive detective simulator set in a procedurally generated city, in which you will be faced with various challenges and obstacles in order to solve a plethora of crimes. It has plenty of systems and mechanics to ensure you get the fill in the shoes of a hardened and grizzled private eye. The game is still in early access, so be sure to subscribe for any future guides and take this with a grain of salt. When you first start a new game, you will be given the option to play the Dead of Night case, which will serve as an introduction and tutorial into the game's systems regarding detective work, following leads, collecting evidence, and solving a murder case. It's also a great way to introduce you to the world and the structure behind solving cases. You'll also want to keep in mind that this will be a great way to slowly ease you into the game's mainstay, or its main feature, murders, since everything else you'll be doing will be considered side activities or side missions until a murder pops up. So it's very important for you to learn the game and pay as much attention to this part of the game as possible, since there's a lot of text which explains it, and there's some images but you'll mostly be reading. So it's important to have all that on hand and remember it for when you start playing your game proper. After choosing your game type, you will be asked for a city to play in. The only options available currently are the Select City, which features the pre-made city of Charlotte Heights, which is standard from the game, as well as any cities that you generated previously, with the option of sharing the city code, which is basically the seed that you use to generate said city. The only other option being to generate your own city from scratch. Here you will be able to choose a name, size, and seed for your city. So let's start with the name. It will be used to name different services or location once you start your game. An example is the newspaper or tenancy documents. These will feature in the game and will have the name of your city as titles or brand names. Next is the size of the city. Here you will determine how many buildings, shops, vendors, companies, and citizens will be part of your crime-solving journey. Smaller cities offer better performance as the game does simulate every citizen and action in real time. So if you're using your mom's laptop, you shouldn't be playing on anything larger than a small city. Finally, there's the seed. This will determine the generation of your city. You can generate new random seeds or type in a custom seed. Although, you should note, if you alter the city name in the seed, it will change its name permanently. So keep that in mind. Here you will also be able to paste other seeds or copy your own to share with others. And that pretty much covers how to make your city. So let's move on to creating your character. One of the only 2 ways of character customization is in the form of your name, gender, and skin color. You can randomize all of these, and to my knowledge the only ones that affect gameplay are your name and gender, for obvious reasons, which will be used for documents pertaining to your character, but that's mostly I've found if you start your game with a apartment. If not, you will not have any documents or any information associated to your character. Besides that, you are pretty much unrestricted when it comes to creating the perfect detective. Here you can also choose your game difficulty, which according to the developer only affects your damage taken. Otherwise, it is not a major factor as of recording this video, especially if you play non-violently. So this means that the higher the difficulty, the more damage you take, but you can avoid damage altogether if you play passively or without getting into conflict. In the gameplay settings tab, you'll be able to modify your experience for the sandbox mode as well, and enable procedural murders. Skip the introduction, enable hints and HUD elements, or even enable or disable certain status effects. One thing that should be noted is the game length modifier. This will determine how many cases you must solve in order to retire your character and end the game. It's a good option to keep it short if you would like to start new cities or new runs at a consistent rate. Now let's detail how to actually get or start cases. If you started the tutorial case, you should be busy for a few hours, and the game will tell you how to get new cases at the end of the tutorial section. However, if you just started a sandbox run, you'll need to find cases immediately, as you probably started on the street with very little money. And how do you get new cases? Well, should you wait for the next murder? Not really. It's pretty simple actually. You go to notice boards near telephones. These will have jobs posted that will give you details about your target and allow you to begin your investigation. I will be covering each case type in a separate video, so be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on that. Basically, what you're gonna do when you start, unless magically, thanks to the RNG gods, you get a murder straight away, you will be doing side missions or lesser investigations. These can range from stealing to tailing people. It's really a mixed bag, but you're just doing this to get money and fill in the time and gather information on the citizens of your city until an actual murder occurs. Now, with all that out of the way, let me explain some of the features available in the game so that you're a bit more knowledgeable before you start. Status effects. You can be granted buffs and debuffs depending on a variety of different status effects. Everything from hunger and thirst to feeling focused and energized. And each effect has certain items that will help keep it in check. So be sure to eat and drink regularly in order to prevent any negative effects from getting in the way of your own justice. Next up is the city directory, which is the blue book next to any phone. The directory is the best way to find addresses for not only people, but buildings, shops, and companies. It's also available, like I said, near every phone that you find, so make sure to make use of it, and if you can, try to memorize as much of it as possible, as it will definitely come in handy later. Next up is the fingerprints. Every citizen has a unique fingerprint that will be generated as you acquire it. It starts at A and continues onwards from there. There are only so many fingerprints for so many citizens. This is a few of the only details of a citizen that is unique to them. It cannot change, it cannot be repeated. So this ties them directly to a crime scene and allows you to find them easily. You should also know that you can scan any object in your inventory for fingerprints. This can be picked up from crime scenes or out in the world. Regardless, if somebody's picked it up, you can scan it for fingerprints. Now, let's move on to shops and services. The city will be littered with a variety of shops, medical clinics, and food joints. All of these sell something of value and will probably be of some use to you. Clinics are the only place you can buy sync discs, which I will cover shortly. But the great thing about these shops is that they are all made up of actual employees that could be part of your investigations. They have shifts and roles within each shop. So if your investigation leads you to a business, make sure to look around for employee records and pictures, as this will be a great way of learning about any potential suspects. Like I mentioned, sync discs. Sync discs are found or bought throughout the city and will grant you passive skills and buffs that will help you with questioning, lockpicking, or making more money by taking pictures of public bathrooms. It's basically your own Yelp site. They can also be upgraded for additional bonuses, but you must be aware that some offer debuffs, and these debuffs can sometimes be removed or negated by upgrading the disc to the point where it actually removes the debuff permanently. So, there's also special items. There are certain items that will make your investigations go a lot smoother. These items can be found at vending machines at City Hall and include such items as a lockpicking kit containing 30 lockpicks, handheld camera, and even handcuffs. So it's a good idea to stock up before heading out to pursue your next target. And since you'll go to City Hall whenever there is a murder to pick up a resolution form anyways, why not buy some sleuth essentials while you're at it? Next up, it's passing time. There are many reasons why you would like to advance time, such as waiting for someone to leave their job or apartment, or simply waiting for a shop to open. Unfortunately, there are only two ways to do it. First is simply sitting somewhere and passing the time. This, however, will cause you to grow hungry and thirsty. And the other way, which has no negative effects, is sleeping, which can only be done in a bed. And of course, I don't have to tell you, if you are homeless, you do not have a bed. That's pretty self-explanatory. Finally, there's the security systems. The city will be filled with cameras, code locks, motion sensors, and security doors. Most of these can be disabled physically with power breakers or through the use of computer systems for whatever building you are in. It's important to also use these for your investigations, as your suspects can most probably be caught entering or exiting the crime scene while altering one of these. Or you can simply find them through security camera footage. And there you have it, folks. This is a guide that I hope will help many new players learn the game and some of its mechanics. I will also be covering things like individual jobs, shops, and methods for making money in the future, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Bye, and have a good one.